Yeah, I got the plan, I got the fan, I got the keys, I get the work. I am the man, you know what I'm saying, so leave it to me, cause I get it first. Yeah, woo, I've been going all day, man. Same plan, can't change that. Till I'm riding around, whole squad sitting back, chilling in the Maybach. Yeah, only as deep as your roots go. I don't do corny like fructose. If you got the drummer, that's word of my mama. I'll cover you up like a tombstone. I was fast in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We can do, ayy, we coming up from the dirt, ayy. They trying to get us to fall, ayy. I don't even gotta flex now, boy. It's only win by the fault, ayy. Taking off with the ring, ain't nothing left, man. We the kings, ran with the team, ran with the dream, ran with the one fan in the seats, ayy. I pay my dues, check the receipt. Looking at you already peaked. Way back then. You can't follow with my tracks, man. I was fast in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up.
Night number 2 is underway from the virtual sprint car capital of the world. We welcome you to the second night of the A&B Outdoors QuickTime Sprint Car Series Knoxville Nationals, presented live by Dirtman Photography right here on the KBueno Racing Network. Dirt Racing is back here just 2 days after our first night last Sunday, and we are ready to bring you all the coverage right here. We're alongside Francisco Bacallao in the booth. My name is Kenneth Bueno, and I'll turn to you, Francisco. Of course, your first time in the booth. We had Keelan last time around at our first night of the Knoxville Nationals, but just to refer it once again, big names, big race, big stakes at a track like this, and especially with a higher payout, is going to be very, very interesting in terms of how these drivers will play their skills tonight.
Thanks for having me out here, Kenneth. And as you mentioned, it's the second night of the Knoxville Nationals, and it's going to be a little bit higher stakes than it was the first night. $10 on the line for the race winner of the feature event. And as we saw last time out, it was a great battle for the win amongst the top drivers. And once again, it was Cody Meadows who came out on top of that one. We'll see who comes out on top here tonight. We could be seeing some different contenders. I believe we have 19 people in the entry list, so a couple of drivers are going home for tonight's race. But of course, there is one more opportunity they'll have if they do end up going home tonight, and that'll be tomorrow night for the main $50 show, which will be broadcasted not on KBRN, but it will be broadcasted by our good friend Shane.
We did mention 3 drivers will miss tonight. There's, of course, 16 car fields for the full field in this A&B Outdoors QuickTime Sprint Car Series. In any race of the season, we have 19 entries tonight, so we'll have 3 drivers saying farewell to Knoxville, at least for tonight, and they could try tomorrow night for the third night in the biggest award one at $50, arguably the biggest part of this Knoxville Nationals and the biggest race of this entire stint. At least they will have one more shot at it. But you mentioned a lot of the other drivers here, Francisco, and one of the drivers in this one that we didn't see in that first night is the number 33 of Lane Stevens. And if you don't remember what Lane Stevens has done in this series, he has obviously won at least once or more times. And of course, he won the Christmas special right here at this very venue. So if anything comes to show, Lane Stevens definitely knows his way around this track. He knows how to win. He knows how to get it done. But there are still a lot of other drivers that are still up to the table. Cody Meadows being one of those. We have Caleb Morrissey coming back to the show. Cole Williams, who had a strong run. Aiden Kirker, who finished over at second last time in the first night of the Knoxville Nationals. Very big competition and a lot to really hold here right next to the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of drivers there. Aiden Kirker, he's been coming along the last couple of races after starting with some bad luck. He's sort of turned it around for himself, and he's really put together some strong performances and good speed that he himself has been able to look back on, including a race win at Lernerville, his first one of the season. You have your usual protagonists, Cody Meadows and Caleb Morrissey, Jesse Atkinson, etc. They're all doing good. But if you actually look at the time screens right now with about a minute left in qualifying, it's the 42 of Cole Williams, who's had not so great luck so far, but shown some decent speed at times. Right now, he is currently in quick time. So could Cole Williams potentially get a pole position here in the second night of the Knoxville Nationals and pull off an upset?
Well, we'll just have to find out. Qualifying at about 55 seconds left, but we're just going to take a look at a reference of where we are in the virtual world as we go look at our KBRN Track Map with images provided by Google Earth. Step over into the famous Knoxville, Iowa, and there lies the half-miler Knoxville Raceway, one of the more iconic tracks in sprint car racing history. Of course, named as the sprint car racing capital of the world, and you can see that building just outside of turn number 2. That is the National Sprint Car Museum and Hall of Fame. So, of course, there is some very high significance that comes with this track. And the track all the way opened back in 1878, although it was a horse racing track before they set the sprint cars over here and actual racing vehicles out to this track. Banking is about at 8 degrees, so we probably won't see too much in terms of the banking. We kind of see it more similarly to what we saw in the first race of the season at Eldora. And of course, we'll be saying Sling in the Dirt here on the dirt surface from this Knoxville Raceway. Very, very iconic track, very historic track. There's so many stories that can revolve about what this venue means to real sprint car drivers and even the sim racers that have had their shot watching sprint car racing and, of course, watching the World of Outlaws and late models and what have you. So, of course, that will mean a lot, and it will mean a lot to win some of the high cash prizes that will come from this event. Well, we see heat number 1 will start underway. We have already drivers gridding on behind the iRacing pace truck. So we'll take a look at your 5-car starting grid for heat number 1. Cole Williams will be starting on the pole for this heat, right alongside the number 16 of Anthony Woodhull, with Aiden Kirker and Jesse Atkinson lining up right behind. Cameron McCone will be the 5th and final driver. Remember, I believe 3 drivers make it in from the heats. It'll be 4 for the last chance qualifier. But for now, if you have those top 3 spots in, you're going to make it into the main event as they start rolling off behind the truck.
Yeah, we have 2 good friends and 2 teammates in Cole Williams and Aiden Kirker in the same heat. They're both hoping to look to advance to the feature tonight and bring home the hardware for their team. And of course, something I'd like to mention before we do go green flag racing is tonight is also the real life side of the Chili Bowl. So we'd like to welcome the dirt fans who may have been watching the Chili Bowl here tonight. If you're also duly watching it on the KBueno Racing Network, the Knoxville Nationals with us. So we enjoy. Obviously, you guys are able to take your time to be with us here tonight. So I'm very happy about that.
And of course, dirt fans have a lot to watch for this weekend. Chili Bowl obviously Saturday, probably looking at about 8:30 p.m. Eastern for actual race time. And of course, all that's on pay-per-view. There's a lot of stuff where you can look around for the Chili Bowl. Probably one of the more iconic as well events in dirt racing, not using the sprint cars, but using the midgets nonetheless. Obviously, that's a very big event. I know I'm excited to watch it. I know probably you are, Francisco, and a lot of other dirt fans that are probably watching right here in the YouTube chat are also excited to watch that race. It'll be a lot of fun as we move into 2021, and especially when the sprint cars go back racing and when they start their season back up for 2021. That'll also be very exciting. But here on the sim side, we've got racing to start for the second night of the Knoxville Nationals. It'll begin with this first heat. Cole Williams and Anthony Woodhull will be the first 2 to lead the field to the green. Pace truck is off and away down to the left of pit road, and down to the front straightaway, we are green in heat number 1.
A good start for Cole Williams. He's able to jump out to the lead. Aiden Kirker trying to get by Anthony Woodhull for that second spot. They move in side by side with Jesse Atkinson in tow. But right now, Aiden Kirker will slide up into that second position, and actually is going to try and challenge for the lead. 2 teammates making contact in turn number 1.
And again, contact into turn number 2. That'll send the 17 around and also McCone around as well. Atkinson going flying over on the back straightaway. That will leave the starting 2 to be the only drivers really left on wheels, I'd say, as Atkinson is pretty much out of this event. McCone and Kirker are luckily able to continue. So that will be very tough for Jesse Atkinson, who will most likely have to shuffle into the LCQ and could possibly fall into the categories of the 3 drivers that have missed this field here tonight. But we have a battle for the lead in the heat at lap number 4 at the halfway mark. Here comes the 16 of Woodhull looking under the 42.
A near incident for the 17 there on that lap 2 wreck, but he's able to keep the 3rd spot. So right now is transferring, if he's able to keep that position. So right now the top 2 are nose to tail here. Front wing, rear wing. Anthony Woodhull trying to find a way around Cole Williams, but Cole Williams able to place the car correctly. And you see the 16 there, look at a little bit sideways from trying to clip as much dirt as he can. The 42 just doing exactly what he needs to try and win this heat.
And you can see early in the night, you can see everybody going all the way down to the middle bottom groove right in front of that little dirt mound right there that's posed in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 respectively. That obviously is going to be the line used in most of these heats, but when the track starts to slick up, we're going to see the drivers migrate higher and higher up the track. I mean, the first night, Francisco, I know you weren't there to be the part of the broadcast, but when Keelan and I were looking at it through the main feature event, that was about 25 laps, we had everybody up to the outside guardrail at one point in the race at the near end in the final laps as we're approaching the final lap here, and off of 3 and 4. Cole Williams will take the win in heat number 1 over Anthony Woodhull. We saw the drivers migrating as the track continued to slick up. We'll continue to see that as we move forward into tonight's event. This is the finish in heat number 1. Cole Williams wins, with Anthony Woodhull following 2nd. Aiden Kirker will line up the 3rd spot. Cameron McCone 4th. Jesse Atkinson with that flip, he's going to round out the field, and he'll be looking over to the last chance qualifier at this point, where he will try to win his way in or run his way in, finishing the top 4 to make it to the 16-car field. We've already lined up everybody for our second heat, and it'll start with 5-time race winner Cody Meadows in the AOD Racing number 88 machine. He'll start at the head of this second heat, right alongside Caleb Morrissey in the Channel Lock machine. One of the stronger drivers that we've seen this season has yet to pick up a win. JJ Hill, league owner, will start from 3rd with Grassman Glenn Bundren. Good to see him out on track as he joined us for one of the broadcasts into this season. He'll start this heat from 4th with Bo Krebs, winner of the Hard Charger Award a couple weeks back. He'll be in the 5th position in the 168.
Yeah, this is a pretty good heat right here. We got these top two that we've sort of come to think about the entirety of the season, Cody Meadows and Caleb Morrissey, and they're in the same heat here tonight. Obviously, got some other people in this heat as well. League owner J.J. Hill, Glenn Bundren, who's been up here, who was actually up here with us for the very first race in the sprint, in the NBA Outdoors QuickTime Series with us. And as you mentioned, Bo Krebs, one of the more recent additions to the series. He is going to line up fifth in this heat. So I'm excited to see what this heat is able to offer in terms of the competitiveness.
And we'll see. And obviously, Francisco, we talked about Cody Meadows, Caleb Morrissey a bunch of times, and just how good they've been. I know Morrissey has yet to capture the checkered flag, but I know he still has a lot of shots to do so. Meadows, on the other hand, has captured a bunch, and we'll just see whether he's able to capture a second in a row, because he was the winner in the Knoxville Nationals in night number 1. So he is looking over for that second spot. He's got a lot of momentum on his shoulder, at least to try and carry it over into the main event later on tonight. He's got this heat to go through first. Pace truck will make its left down to pit road, and the 88 and the 6 will lead this field to the green flag in heat number 2. 8 more laps from Knoxville.
Pretty clean start by everybody here. The 88 will take the lead going into 1. There goes Caleb Morrissey filing out to second. It's going to be a battle for third immediately as the top two already spreading each other out from the rest of this field. J.J. Hill, actually, we got one around in the back. I believe that's Glenn Bundren. No, it's Bo Krebs.
Yeah, Bo Krebs in the 168. He is spun around. He is out already. And also one car around, and just right there, as you said, Glenn Bundren, he went around. I believe maybe contact with Hill. I'm not sure whether that might have been the case, but we are dwindling cars early in these heats. But meanwhile, another battle for the lead is ensuing. The number 6 of Morrissey has been looking to the inside of the 88 of Meadows, has yet to perform the pass at lap number 3. He's got another shot. He's working the high line, trying to arc the corner.
These two have profound respect for one another. They've battled so much throughout the season and respect on each other's racing abilities out on the dirt side of things, that they're just able to confide in one another whenever they're having these hard battles. So respect among competition is always nice to have, and you can have these hard battles and one not get upset at one another for hard racing. So halfway through this second heat, and Cody Meadows having a sizable lead now over Caleb Morrissey.
Continue to hold it as he's approaching 3 laps to go. Currently the driver in the transfer spot is league owner J.J. Hill with that contact with Glenn Bundren, who went around. He's still on the track, however he is 4th. Bo Krebs, as previously mentioned, he's out of this heat, so he will also turn to the LCQ, much like Jesse Atkinson will do with an early wreck in the opening laps of this heat. We've already got to 2 laps to go in this second heat, an 8-lap heat event. You can see Morrissey just trying to arc it, trying to enter high, then arc it down low to get the exit off the corner. So far has not been able to work, but we'll get the white flag in heat number 2.
You know, that's kind of opposite from what we saw on Sunday night. I wasn't in the broadcast booth, but I was watching from the YouTube video live stream, and the line on Sunday night was you want to enter low and slide it all the way to the wall, and the car kind of catches itself there as Cody Meadows wins the heat. So I was hearing that was a good line for that race, and that sometimes Knoxville tends to have different lines for them depending on the track conditions, and just the session varies it. So I'm interested to see if it progresses the same way as it did in that race, or is it going to be a completely different situation here tonight?
Yeah, that's going to be one of the points of conversation, especially as those drivers start to get familiar in the feature event. We'll see whether they slide up, and that was a very good point that you made, that where pretty much most of the leaders, apart from everyone else, I know everybody was running that high lane all the way up to the guardrail, but the first 3 leaders or so, when it came to Meadows, Kirker, and I believe Cole Williams as well, they would slide all the way to the bottom, keep the throttle in, slide up the track, and then just continue to make their way throughout this track, get there to the back straightaway, and then do the same in 3 and 4, and it seemed to have worked. It seemed to be very effective comparative to the other drivers and what they would do, where they would be pretty much all the way to the guardrail the entire way throughout this track. Seems as though we'll see if any drivers decide to do that, or if the track does permit for different lines. We'll have to find out. But first, we'll get over to our 3rd heat of the evening, starting with Richard Mendonça in the 46 Western Erectors machine. He will be in the first spot with Caleb Nickel in the 29, sporting a new machine in the number 29 machine. He'll be in second. Marshall Ryder, former race winner a couple weeks back, he will be over in the 3rd spot with Jacob Boxell 4th. Brady Walleman was supposed to be the 5th car in this heat. However, he did not register, or he did not join the grid. So he will also be another one of the drivers to look for in the LCQ. At least in this time, he won't be suffering from a wreck. It just won't be attending in this event, or attending in the heat, at least for the most part. But Francisco got a good amount of group here. I know Mendonça has been in the series a couple times. Nickel we've seen perform well. Ryder, obviously race winner. And Boxel, who we've seen newly at the Nationals just 2 days ago. Is there anything to look for here out of Nickel, Ryder, or pretty much anybody we're looking at in this small little heat?
I think this is a pretty interesting heat just because of the collective group that we have here. You mentioned Richard Mendonça. He's there in the first position for this heat. Caleb Nickel, second. He's put together some strong runs in his limited starts since joining midseason. Marshall Ryder, a race winner. He's won a couple heats himself and LCQ as well. He's starting off third, and Boxwell in that fourth position. So an interesting group, and the battle's going to be who does not finish last, because everybody else would advance as long as you don't finish last. As the green flag is waving, a great start for Mendonça, and Nichols trying to stay with him.
Now single file through 1 and 2. A little slick though for the 44 of Boxel. It will stay clean through 1 and 2 for the first time, and you can see there's the slide by the 46. He does the maneuver that we've been talking about just before this heat. He'll maintain the lead on lap number 1, but here comes Caleb Nickel trying to make the charge.
The top three are really close to one another, and as soon as I said, Marshall had a bit of a moment there in turn 2, but still has them in his eyesight. Maxwell losing a little bit of ground since that first lap, as we see Nichols trying to find a way around this 46. He has a little bit of time. He has about 6 laps, but right there he finds a little bit of grip, and he's going to have a run on him going into 3.
You have the run into 3. Question is, can he make any use of it? We haven't seen any lead changes in the heat so far. We've only seen some competition. Here may be that pass for the lead that we have been looking for. Maybe not so there at 1 and 2 for Nickel. He got a little slick under there near the dirt mound, and it allowed the 46 to get the run off the corner. Marshall Ryder has been looking for third. Remember, top 3 will advance to the feature event.
I don't know if this camera is able to capture it that well, but the inside of this racetrack sort of reminds you of New Hampshire. There's a little bit of contact there between Nickel and Ryder, but the inside of this racetrack sort of reminds you of New Hampshire. If you look at it, it's a little bit flat, and to an extent, maybe just a little bit off camber. So less banking, almost negative banking on the very flat of the racetrack underneath where most of these guys have been running for the early portions of this heat, which is why you see them sort of running the middle. They don't want to go all the way to the bottom because it just doesn't help with the turning. They'll enter in the middle and then slide up, or just run all the way to the top of the entirety of the corner. So an interesting track layout here compared to most racetracks where they have that flat or negative banking on the bottom.
And of course, we're going to look for drivers refraining from using that little dirt mound. We've seen a couple drivers kick up there, as Mendonça will take the white flag in heat number 3. The 8 laps completed. Nickel may be mounting a charge in 1 and 2. We'll see if he uses it in a 3 and 4, whether he will carry that momentum, whether we'll have a challenge for the lead. Mendonça slides up the track. Nickel to the bottom, but it might not be enough. Mendonça will win heat number 3 in a challenging battle with Nickel, who comes from 2nd, Marshall Ryder 3rd, and Jacob Boxel will be 4th. But Brady Wildman, remember, as previously mentioned, did not show up to that heat, so he will be 5th. He'll be over to the LCQ in just a couple of moments. Now our 4th heat will be going underway. Everybody will be starting to grid at this point, and guess who's in this one? Lane Stevens in the 33, who we mentioned has a pretty good history with Knoxville, and especially a good history with Knoxville in this series. He was the winner in the Christmas special right at this very venue, so look out for him, as he's going to be entering the heat right here from the first position.
Yeah, Lane Stevens, he's a really good dirt driver. He drives dirt in real life as well. Won in one of his early starts and one of the Florida Nationals, but has struggled a bit in terms of luck the most recent couple of races. So he's won here, as you mentioned, in the Christmas special, and hopefully tonight is where he can begin to turn that luck around and get back to the ways he was in that first race that he ran in the Florida Nationals.
So this will be your 4-car heat grid. It'll be Lane Stevens in the 33. You can see it all the way in that all-black machine. He'll start from the first one. He'll lead the field to the heat green flag. Zach Arnold, seeing him back into the field. It's been a little bit since we've seen him in that AOD number 48. He will start alongside in 2nd. Vince Isabella will be lining up in 3rd. And Richard Kirker, father of Aiden Kirker, he will be lining up at the 4th spot, and he will be the final driver for this 4-car heat. Remember, of course, top 3 will advance. Final driver in this one will be moving on to the LCQ. So, of course, as Francisco did mention, just don't finish last. Just try to scrap for that 3rd spot the best you can. That'll be where we're going to see the battles the most. And as you see, the track will start to slicken up as well. And obviously not known for a lot of the non-throttle action here, Francisco, at Knoxville, because I've just pretty much heard that you stay full throttle all the way through this track. There's really no points where you lay off the throttle, maybe unless you're avoiding a wreck, or maybe if you're too slick and you're trying to save the race car. Is there somewhat of a super speedway factor to this kind of dirt style as opposed to what we've seen at the shorter tracks where you really have to lay off and try to really manage throttle as much?
I mean, if you look at the layout of this racetrack, there has some pretty wide corners, and the straightaways aren't too long like they are at USA, but again, the corners are so wide and they have such an arc to them that you're able to play around with the throttle, considering the cars are sideways through the corner, that just simply playing around with the throttle is exactly how you get the car to turn. So maybe that's just part of this racetrack. It maybe gives you a super speedway feeling, maybe not quite the Daytona type, but definitely the Auto Club type with the new cup packages. We're underway in the final heat of the night. Zach Arnold right behind Lane Stevens. Both of them got away pretty good as the scrap is back there in third. Richard Kirker having a bit of a moment, but he's staying with them.
See if we have a challenge for third, and instead of some of the drivers getting into incidents and lagging back into fourth, Kirker still trying to make somewhat of a run to Isabella. He had one at the opening segment, but at this point at lap number 2, he has yet to really prove himself at the moment. Zach Arnold did fall back from the leader, and right now Lane Stevens will lead lap number 2. He'll carry over with about 5 or 6 laps to go into this heat. It's a little bit of the dirt mound, but he'll slide up, and it's pretty much single file throughout.
Yeah, everybody's about the same sort of distance from one another as this heat quickly approaching the halfway point, as Zach Arnold blinks for a second there, but he's still running in the second position. There's Richard Kirker right behind Vincent Isabella. These three are more or less, four really, they're all separated by the same amount. No one really closing behind one another. So if it continues this way for the rest of these laps, then I don't see why nothing won't change.
Coming into turn 1 and 2 once again. Now with 4 laps to go, there may have been some tightening between third and fourth. I think Kirker's still closing the gap. He's been using that bottom, and it's been working. He's now there to the rear wheel, not just yet to clear himself at the moment, but he's been putting that charge up against the number 20, and that's when he's been eyeing him ever since. Arnold has fallen back, and Lane Stevens with about a second gap over second. He will take 2 laps to go from this heat.
I'm just not sure if completely working the bottom like that is going to be the most effective way to go around this racetrack. It could gain you some time, but it's definitely not going to allow you to complete the pass unless you throw a complete slide job. But trying to make the bottom work naturally is not necessarily going to be the best thing that will help you work on trying to pass somebody. Lane Stevens takes the final lap for this heat. He has a commanding lead over Zach Arnold, and Zach Arnold has a bit of a moment there that could open the door for Vincent Isabella to go for third. Lane Stevens has no problems and will take this heat win, and Richard Kirker will come up short of that third spot as they all stay in the same spots.
So as they started is just as they finished. Lane Stevens will win this heat in the final heat of the evening with Zach Arnold second, and then obviously you saw third and fourth Vincent Isabella and Richard Kirker, who will find himself right here to the LCQ, the last chance qualifier. 10 laps, 4 drivers will make it in to the feature event, and we'll start with Cameron McCone. He'll be the first to see the green flag. He'll be the first to lead the field off, right alongside the number 37 Grassman Glenn Bundren will start alongside in row number 1. Jacob Box on the 44. Richard Kirker will start in the second row, third and fourth respectively, with Jesse Atkinson, Bo Krebs, and Brady Wallerman. 7 cars will be here. Remember, 3 will go home. We had 19 drivers enter and register into tonight's event, so of course we will see some drivers find their way back to the trailer, and they will have to attempt one more time tomorrow night in order to make it to the feature event. And quite possibly it probably would be a good amount of work to put in to get into that feature event tomorrow, since there'll be such a huge prize pool, and it's going to be pretty much the biggest night out of all 3 of the Knoxville national races that we're going to be seeing throughout the week. So we'll see everybody pacing through, and at this point, Francisco, you're looking at 3 drivers missing. There's 7 drivers, there's 4, so pretty much it would be a pretty good chance of you getting in, just saying, at least if it was comparative to, let's say, top 2 make it in, then it's very slim, but you have top 4, which is more than half of the field. Is it easier? Does it kind of soften the blow in terms of the amount of drivers compared to the amount of people that will make it into the actual show?
Numbers don't lie, and right now the numbers say you have a 66.6% chance of making it into the LCQ, and that is as long as you finish in the top 4. So right now, the people starting in the top 4 have it made for them, and those last 2 have their work cut out for them. They have to gain some spots, do some work if they want to get up to those top 4. But quickly, before we go green flag, just want to remind everybody that next night the Knoxville Nationals third night, we'll have a 20-car field of maximum drivers, and with the $50 prize, I'm assuming we can get a larger field, and we will have a larger field for the main event if we're able to get that many. So just wanted to quickly mention that. We're getting ready for the LCQ here in the first position. He's going to get ready to go right there, and there they go. We're underway in the final LCQ before the feature race.
Last chance qualifier underway. Top 4 will make it in. Green flag is already out. McCone out with an early lead, but it's yet to be contested. Here comes Bundren and Boxel finding their way in. Jesse Atkinson will find his way into the final plant transfer spot, as here's a challenge for the lead. Bundren to the inside of McCone.
Battles all over the racetrack, and they're 3 wide almost as there's contact. Bundren seems to have had an issue, and he looks to be out of it unless something happens to some of these front runners. Richard Kirker trying to take third from Jesse Atkinson. They're side by side, almost making contact. There's Boxwell now. They're 3 wide, and there's contact. Boxwell up the racetrack, keeps it off the wall, but he's going to lose the position there.
Oh, and that was very close, and a big blow for Bundren. He's going to have to scrap his way back to the 4th spot, as he's all the way at the tail end. Maybe quick enough to get there, but at lap number 4, across the stripe, Richard Kirker has found his way to 2nd, Atkinson to 3rd, but it's McCone still the leader up front. He's got a couple of drivers a little bit further behind. Boxel currently holding that final spot. Krebs and Bundren still looking, and also Weileman was supposed to be the 7th car. He is now registered, so he's not here. Halfway mark. McCone still leads. Everybody single file.
Single file and equally distanced, more or less what we saw in that final LCQ. A little bit of clip of dirt out there for Bo Krebs. That is not going to help him all that much. Glenn Bundren's going to have a little bit of a run on here, see if he can pass him himself and try and make a run on Boxer up there in that 4th position, who's currently holding that final spot. But how about Richard Kirker, who's running 2nd and actually running down Cameron McCone? So could we see the elder Kirker go for an LCQ win? He's going to try and make the move on Cameron McCone, but unfortunately right there cannot make it work.
He tried the inside. We've seen it so many times, and we saw it in the heats where they tried to move on the inside, and it just was not possible. They were not able to get the run off the corner in order to do so. Still stagnant between top 4 with 3 laps to go in this LCQ for the 10-lap event before we get to the feature event here from Knoxville and night number 2. Top 3 all scrunched up, but so far I believe Krebs is slowly starting to reel in that 44. Does he have enough time with 2 laps to go?
That last time by wasn't exactly a good lap. You see, gains right there in turn 1, but loses it right here on exit. So he just needs to find some grip and hold it together for the entirety of the lap if he wants to try and get up there. He's going to have one more shot this upcoming lap, and actually he's going to have a bit of a challenge there from Glenn Bundren, almost, as Bundren had a moment off turn number 4. The Aries tried the slide job right there, and unfortunately was not going to reach him. Has one more opportunity. Can he make it go? This is all for making the race, and he is not going to get there. So both Krebs will miss this race as Cameron McCone wins the LCQ from Richard Kirker and Jesse Atkinson.
The 3 drivers that'll miss will be Bo Krebs, Glenn